Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, Transformation in Tradition, 5 Ways to Reimagine the Customer Agent Experience in Insurance. My name is Emily and I work with Cake and Arrow. If you are unfamiliar with us, at Cake and Arrow we do customer experience. We're a customer experience agency who partners with insurance companies. We're leading global digital initiatives with MetLife, PROSITE, among others, for launches that span life group, benefits, P&C, and specialty. We use customer data to achieve results, focusing on increasing policy renewals, driving profitable growth, and creating digital experiences to get you closer to customers and allow for more self-service. Before we get started, I would like to take a moment to explain a few things about the webinar. So during the webinar, you can hear us, but we cannot hear you. So if you have questions, please type them into the chat box on your control panel. I will do my best to answer questions throughout by responding back to you, and then field as many questions as we have time for to our presenters at the end of the session. Last but not least, if you are on social media, so are we. You can follow us on social to find out about future webinars, events, and news. And without further ado, I would now like to introduce today's presenters. So we have on the line Christina Schmidt. She is the Director of UX at Cake and Arrow. Christina has 20 plus years of digital experience in a wide variety of industries, including financial services, insurance, legal, healthcare, advertising, broadcast, media, technology startups, and e-commerce. She has helped design innovative experiences and products and integrated lean and agile methodologies into the design process for an array of Fortune 500 clients, including MetLife, Wolters Kluwer, American Express, the Discovery Channel, Omnicom Media Group, and Morgan Stanley. She is a champion for the end user and has expertise in interaction and visual design, user research and testing, data visualization, and mobile-first experiences. Jane Linder is a strategist who is passionate about product and service design. Apologies for that feedback. She loves to develop frameworks to align users and bring together technical design and analytic talents. She started with early e-commerce ventures in 1997 for Nickelodeon and Dick's Sporting Goods, lead digital strategy at Gray Global Group's G2, and worked with brands like Disney, Chase, and Adobe. And like any great NYC digital industry veteran, ran an NYC startup. For the last 8 years, Jane has focused on areas she knows to be the only real game changers: experience, research, and design for notable products and service such as Pizza Hut, GE, and MetLife. Christina, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Emily. I'm really excited to talk with you all today. And let's dive into the 5 ways that we have learned to reimagine the customer agent experience in this insurance for the digital age. So we know from multiple years of working in the insurance industry that the overall agent customer experience is broken. Basically, we see that carriers are actually misled into thinking that the only way that they're going to provide the best experience for the end customer is actually to go direct to consumer. We know that that's not actually the case, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But also we see that agents and customers are both dealing with a ton of paperwork and so much burdensome data entry that it makes it very hard for them to actually get the insurance products that they need. We've seen so many problems with technology in this space that there's lots of investments, sometimes in the wrong places, sometimes places that aren't flexible enough to respond to the business and to what customers need. And overall, the process just takes way too long. For example, in the US, it takes approximately 35 days on average to complete a life insurance sale. That customer might actually be ready and prepared within a day in order to make that purchase after consulting with their agent, but the overall process itself is what slows that down. It's the paperwork, it's the back and forth, it's really what's causing a misalignment between agents and customers and really a proxy for what's broken in the industry itself. But really, life insurance and insurance in general should be all about this great classic Norman Rockwell painting. What happens between the agent and the customer in their home is simplistic and ultimately helpful. This agent has the trust of their customers, they're advising them on their needs, and they really are welcomed into their home as a trusted family member almost in this picture. So the insurance of today is putting all of these different processes in place and tons of technology, lots of manual papers that need to happen, and it removes what this simple interaction really should be. Let me explain to you what's the best thing for your needs, and let's get you that insurance. But what's really at the center of this that we've actually uncovered through our years of research across the globe is that what's breaking the customer experience is an end-to-end lack of trust. It happens between carriers and customers where a carrier thinks that a customer is going to give wrong information in order to just get the lowest price. The customer isn't sure if that carrier is actually going to provide them insurance that's going to provide for their needs and support them through a claim or through an incident. And the poor agent is actually stuck in the middle, trying to mediate between these two and trying to create an environment for good information to serve both of those parties. So today we're going to go through actually 5 ways that we can see tips for how to actually overcome this. So these are things that you guys can actually do in your own businesses in order to really understand how to reimagine that overall customer agent experience and to really reinvigorate this experience with a level of trust and help you really have a business model that can set you up for the future and to be flexible. So Jane and I are going to walk you through these points. They are know the actors, don't digitize business as usual, enable self-service, focus on what you do best, and let trust trickle down. Knowing the actors. In general, improving the customer agent experience actually should start with user research. You need to actually understand what all of the different actors' needs are, what their pain points are, what their goals are, and basically how they like to interact with each other to really understand where there are problems and where the system itself is breaking down. We believe in conducting ethnographic research and also usability studies with all of these actors, and that actually can include employees at your actual company itself in order to really understand what needs to happen and ultimately help you to articulate the best needs for designing the right service that benefits everyone. Now, as I was mentioning before, our firsthand experience is actually with interviewing directly producers, consumers, employees at insurance companies across a variety of studies. I myself have probably conducted over half of these interviews and so have firsthand knowledge. So our entire team here is really focused on understanding that entire value chain and knowing how different people interact in that experience. So in order to really understand that customer and agent experience, this is the process that we take. So we really like to investigate everyone, as I was saying, making sure that there's the right amount of research to get to know agents, customers, and your employees. We start with observation first. So contextual inquiry and ethnographic research really means so much more than hearing what people say or hearing what people report back on a survey. The insights are actually really amazing, what you can see when you stop to ask someone, oh, why did you do that? When they consider that their normal practice as, business as usual for them, and they don't even think to reply and let you know about that in a session where it might not be fully in place and what their day-to-day is like. So really getting that first-person observation is going to help you understand something that a human might actually not even think to mention as something that's important. We then like to go really quickly and use those insights to create a working hypothesis. And then it's super important to take that hypothesis back. Maybe it's a concept, a verbal concept that you want to test. Maybe it's something like a quick paper prototype, or maybe it's actually a full working prototype of an experience. But it's really critical to go back and test that hypothesis with those actors because that's how you're going to get the critical feedback. Really, humans are best when they can react to something and know really how they would start to use it and think about it. It's a lot harder for a human to really understand a concept because they might actually be putting some bias into it. So you might get great feedback, but they were thinking about a square and you were thinking about a circle. So I'm going to quickly talk about a case study from a different environment, which we work with a variety of companies outside of insurance as well, such as KindSnacks.com. They're the people that have brought you Kind bars. And we actually engaged with them to increase their sales and help them learn how to build a direct relationship with customers. And ultimately, their goal was to turn any customer into an enthusiast. So our process for that was to really conduct interviews. We did both remote and in person. We did intercept interviews with their field sales teams and really got to understand what the mindset was and the mental model of their customers were. We then observed different customers to really understand their behavior. So we saw how they shopped. We saw throughout their day how they snacked, and really tried to understand and ask them why, in the context of the moment, they actually chose to reach for a certain snack or how they were thinking about that snack when they were consuming it. And from there, we used it to validate and build a hypothesis. So to my right, hopefully you're seeing a video of one of those experiences, which is education for how a user can actually use Kind products in a different way throughout their day. So this was a direct insight that came out of what people were saying. We basically heard that a lot of consumers says, oh, I use a Kind bar for this. My trainer might have recommended it to me, and that's the only way I think to use of it. Or a parent might say, oh, I use it for this particular moment because it's not right for my kids, and they didn't think about how their products could grow beyond that category. So actually taking that insight, making it into a prototype, and showing this to a user, or to several users, I should say, across 3 different sessions, really helped us to fine-tune what the message should be and how their interactions should work. And this will actually be launching next month, and so you can see it live. The real result, though, of this product was that in those user sessions, not only did we get really critical feedback to help us conceive of concepts like that, but also then got a lot of fine-tuned information on how to make it right and really resonate with customers. And the result was that in that concept testing and through usability testing, we were able to really uncover their mental model, and they reported back that they had an improved brand perception, and they really understood a unique, how unique Kind's value proposition was, and how to start to use their products in different sessions. So how can you do this yourself? 1, start with fast research. We really believe in conducting right-sized research. So that's actually saying, oh, is this going to be something where I can do the right amount of testing in order to make sure I get the right amount of results? We try not to do testing just for testing's sake, trying to understand what is it that you actually need and really only doing the sessions that you need in order to do that. We also like to combine research methods in order to make sure that you're actually using your time wisely. So how can I get someone in to do mental model research while at the same time I'm actually understanding how they are responding to the usability of our product? So trying to use a research session for more than one thing is going to maximize your time and your budget. We also do things like leverage specialized recruiting methods. So that might be doing something like I was saying, using the field research team of Kind to actually do intercept research on the streets, or tapping into other panels or sessions where you can get access to your data, going to your pool of agents or producers in order to work with their clients, because it helps them and you, and so that you can get to real targets fast. Or we actually use specialized startups online to recruit hard-to-reach, high-value targets. So one of the ones that I like a lot is respondent.io. They can pull up a recruit for a very specific age range, either in person or remote, for me in less than 5 days. So being able to get access to that target makes that go so quickly. The next thing that we recommend is actually rapid prototyping. This really unlocks the power of your team by using design thinking workshops and really using sketching in order to really try and make a hypothesis. From there, prototyping software like Envision can be used to quickly show off what that experience is. You can even load in paper sketches into Envision and show it maybe to stakeholders or to a quick group of users. But ultimately, Envision has gotten so powerful that with really just minimal prompts, you can mimic a ton of interactions to really show someone how that experience might work and understand how they're interacting with it. Finally, taking that prototype and validating it with users is really the key here. It's going to be the way that you unlock all of that information and really make sure that you're on the right path. So because it's just a prototype, you could throw it out quickly and start all over again, or you can quickly modify it. So getting user validation in early and often is going to be critical. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jane to do the next section.
So the next section is called Don't Just Digitize Business as Usual. And this section is really about prioritizing UX. We have discovered and demonstrated time and again, if we focus on the user experience and not on business processes, we get rewarded for both. So it is oftentimes the front end of an experience that has a lot of business processes like insurance, that when the innovations happen there on the front end, they can radically change the back office so that you have really agents and customers a little bit more in control, the ability to make accurate choices, and you give them those tools so that administrative processes on the back end don't have to take the place in order to successfully submit accurate information or any types of processes, really. You go to the next one. So I'm going to go through 3 points, as Christina did. The first way, the number one way to prioritize UX is to start with the customer. So this is really about customer centricity. And through customer centricity, we find solutions. And really, we understand and gain a compass as to what direction we should be going in an organization. So specifically within customer journeys, we want to pinpoint moments of greatest vulnerability. So those are really opportunities where we can make a difference in someone's life. How we resolve these, whether they're uncertainty or pain or fear or opportunities for delight, really determine the brand-customer relationship. So next slide, specifically, we take something like the end-to-end auto insurance journeys or customer experience and isolating the claims customer journey because we found that that is a point where people have a lot of fear, uncertainty, and if we can be there for them at certain moments, that's how we create loyalty. So really, in this case, we identified, prioritizing the point where someone needs you to be there after they've had an accident, or the point at which someone feels concerned that they're not going to get the attention that they need for repair or for having their claim finalized. And so this allowed us to share with the IT department and the claims department and other people the exact moments that we want to prioritize, and that helped to make better business decisions and focus the UX in the right place. The second point is that when we do design solutions around these key points, we want to make sure that they grant users the transparency and control that we're seeing from the apps and tools that we really love today. So when you think of something like Uber and why it allows a customer or a user to really understand what's happening and to make a lot of choices, thereby sort of taking some of the delays or processes out of the in between those moments between them and the driver. So with insurance, what we have is a lot of complex business rules, and a lot of those are what causes NIGOs. They cause uncertainty that the customer is getting the right plan. But if we can transfer the burden of complexity to the software and basically make it push-button simple for the agent and the customer, we give them confidence that quotes are accurate. We start to build trust into the process. And then down the line, we're looking at higher quality, just faster processing in general, and we solve a lot of problems. So an example of this is a very simplistic thing. It's just a coverage amount field. So this particular coverage amount field is in a sales enablement tool that allows agents to really create the right plans. Now, sometimes there can be errors when they create the plan. There can be errors down the road when underwriting gets involved. But if we can basically make something like this simple data entry point really smart, and based on certain rules about the insured party, let the agent know, what would be the accurate range of the coverage amount, that's great, and that's a first step. What we've done also is to layer in some other rules. You could even go as far as underwriting to change the ranges based on more and more information for the user, making it super simple and really preventing errors. And the third point is when we look at these rules or fields, we want to make sure that we understand the rationale. There are a lot of business rules that we've discovered to be legacy, and sometimes we can basically launch something with them, and then we test it in market because we haven't been able to really get, let's say, underwriting or areas of the company to really distill down why some rules are there. So we feel as though if we can get it down to like what is legal, what is really needed for the user, what's needed for the underwriting process, and remove anything that is unnecessary, we have a much better experience. We were able to decrease the number of basically fields within the e-application by about 50% compared to the competition, and that, agents thought that was just really fantastic, and we didn't lose anything from it. The other thing is automation. We want to make sure that anything that can be happening behind the form or behind the scenes is happening. We don't want to make users work so hard if we can do the work for them. So a really silly example is a field that everyone says is necessary. So this is just, without any explanation around it. And while there's nothing wrong with having a field that someone would pass over, or someone would have to maybe look up in a manual to understand how it's used, what we really want is just to remove it if it's not necessary. So in this case, we found that a sales code is something that could happen in the background based on the channel or the user or certain settings. And we wouldn't have to have it be a confusing thing, because this one in particular, agent said, "What is this? I don't know what this is." They have to look it up. But one of the ways in which we don't digitize business as usual is making everything very much guided, so that the user knows exactly what they're doing, even if they've never been trained on it. So you remove training, you remove errors. And so the next example is where you automate a step. So here is an example where customers can actually see the car that they have when they're in the auto they're in the auto process for getting a quote. So this creates accuracy. It cuts down on errors that happen in the back office, and it makes users kind of appreciate that you're getting to them through this process better, even because it's a much shorter quoting process. So when we look at these 3 points around not digitizing business as usual, the best example that we have of this is a project that we did in Japan for MetLife. And that was, the assignment was to create this agent customer experience that creates a much better front office process. So most tools globally actually are really just for the agent, but our idea really was to create a tool that was for the agent and the customer so that we could deepen that relationship that we were talking about. And at the same time, the assignment to really reduce NIGOs is paramount. So right now, about 60% of applications in the US are actually still paper. So just going to paperless isn't enough. It's like what we were talking about with all those fields. Basically, if you go from a 10-page paper form to a 10-page online form, you're not really doing that much better. So there were a few steps that we took. The first thing we did was to, of course, talk to users. We found that agents thought that insurance sales just inherently complex. What really bothered them was that they felt like they were a data entry clerk. And they said it got in the way of their customer relationship. And also because there isn't the sort of validation and automated checking that we were just looking at, they would oftentimes have to go back to the customer, and it created a lot of unease in that process, and they want the sales process to feel seamless. So after we talked to agents, we observed them. We saw how they went about the whole sales process. In Japan, they have like 3 visits to customers, and they have their own techniques, so they need a lot of flexibility, we discovered, but there is sort of a fundamental standard as well. So what we did was to come up with solutions and then go back to those agents and validate them. And we validated them in certain settings, face-to-face, agent-customer relationships, or on the phone. We discovered there were issues that we needed to resolve from some of the initial solutions that we had. And at the same time, we get hacking away at those business requirements and making sure we really understand what they are. And also that we could build interactions that include those rules. So sometimes you have the UX designers that do interface work, and then later rules are added, but they're not added in ways that really work with interaction design. So it's sort of an iterative process, making sure you have the rules that work with the tool, because it's an actual tool. And then the final thing was to really validate the viability and the desirability of the tool and make sure that adoption rates were going to be where you want them to be. So adoption is really low for e-applications in the United States, and it's pretty low in Japan too. But we really blew that out of the water because we started with users and because we just didn't digitize their current workflow. We gave the tools to agents and customers. And ultimately, we created a really great experience, especially like a mobile iPad experience, so that customers could be in their own homes and they could get updated information immediately. We did testing with customers and agents and got a lot of great feedback, so that when we went into market, we knew it would work. And at the same time, we reduced underwriting basically the time to complete underwriting by 50%. And we also had a lot of straight-through processing where everything was so perfect and accurate that we were able to underwrite within a day. So this really changed the game. I'm going to just run through it again.
Sorry about that, Jane. I had a little keyboard issue there. So I'm going to actually walk you guys through the next area, which is enable self-service. Now, as I said when we started out, one of the misconceptions is that the only good experience is actually a DTC one. Now, we know that that's not the case because the agent is so powerful in the relationship with the customer, and we know from McKinsey reports that over 54% of affluent people want to actually be able to work with an agent when buying life insurance. But self-service is very critical to really improving the agent customer experience and improving the end customer's experience as well. And the most important aspect of that is to actually enable that self-service for when it matters to the user, when they actually need you. You don't necessarily force them to do it all the time, but when they want to be able to do it, that's when it's critical and when it makes the most sense. From our own research, we've actually seen that some users prefer to actually do a lot of tasks, if not all tasks, on their own. So really figuring out that right amount and where it actually improves the relationship is going to be critical. So here's an actual direct quote from research that we did in Seattle. This was from someone who was buying P&C insurance. And she reported that she's a mom of a toddler, and it's actually better to not have to talk to someone on the phone. She only has a few minutes between naps to get anything done. And she went on to talk about how when she has to call into the phone channel, she sometimes has to sit on hold for a long time. It might be a more complicated conversation when she wanted to only do something quickly. And that if her son or daughter woke up from a nap and needed something right that moment, she always felt like she was imposing on the other person on the other line by having to say, oh, I have to go right now, and hanging up because, you know, her toddler was running around. So that's just a little information about some of the mindset of people who actually prefer to do self-servicing. So here are some things to think about and to consider. Making sure that you're there when they actually need you. So customers want just to immediately have that touch, and when it matters, that's when it's most critical. So really understanding that is going to help you unlock the areas that should be self-service as opposed to the areas that should be for the agent. Agents themselves actually really care about servicing their customer, and they really want to make sure they can minimize administrative tasks. This is going to help them to be more effective salespeople and ultimately more effective customer service people for the end clients. So understanding where the agent adds value, and those are the moments that they can continue to do. But where it's not value for the customer or for the agent, those are items that you should consider for self-service. But technology is really critical in this entire approach to self-service. Your technology actually needs to be flexible and adaptive to your active business and ultimately to changing user needs. So making sure that you have the right backend systems and a flexible front end are going to allow you to really create that right system that allows you to react to data, to real-time feedback from users, and ultimately to continue to fine-tune your self-servicing model to make sure that you're focusing on that sweet spot. So an example of where we actually worked on this was for MetLife, where we helped them build a direct-to-consumer sales and servicing system called MyDirect. So basically they asked us to help them grow their direct-to-consumer market share and help them lower their expense ratio through a pure digital channel. Our approach was to really use a lot of the techniques that Jade and I have already spoken about in order to create a fully responsive experience that allows a user to quote and actually manage their entire auto insurance policy online. They could do that without any intervention from a representative or an agent. And what was great was that we did see a 22% increase in adoption. One of the things that has really come out of our research and that MetLife has been working on is actually that only having a direct-to-consumer offering, which doesn't allow the flexibility to actually go to the phone channel, is something that they're actually working to change. And we're actually working with them on that next phase of this product to allow their products to be more dynamic, to really respond to the way that a customer engagement works. But the great news and the result of that project was that Forrester actually ranks that entire experience as being the second best for end-to-end mobile experience for in their U.S. mobile auto insurance functional benchmark. So this happened in 2005, and previously Forrester did not even look at any of MetLife's properties and rank them. So to go from 0 to second place, it was a really great validation that our process works. Now, how can you do this on your own? One, start with agents. Really conducting research with them is key. And a really simple task that you can do with them that's really quick is actually to do a card sort, where you have them think about all the tasks that they do and prioritize them and order them. From there, you can actually start to dial in and get more anecdotal feedback on why they chose to put things where they did and what they mean to them. And by inquiring deeper, you can come to uncover some of their pain points and also the areas where they consider are key focus points for their business. So anything that's considered a low-value item to them, but also takes a lot of their time, is something that you should consider as being right for self-service. Now that you've gotten a baseline with your agents, now it's time to move to the customer. So really conducting behavioral and contextual research is going to be helpful to understand how they actually think about things. Get people to actually go through the shopping process for you so that you can witness it and uncover both their mental models and actually how they go about solving those problems and making decisions. And as I've said previously, observation is just so much more powerful than what they say and recall. And then in a session like that, you can continue to further inquire and to understand why they do what they are doing and why they think that what they're doing. That context is really actually something that can inspire not only the areas for improvement, but unique, innovative solutions for how to go about doing that. And the final step is really about a cross-reference matrix between those two bits of research to really help you set your roadmap. So again, we're going to take those items that were low value to agents but lots of time, looking at what the customer cared about and what they want to do themselves, areas where they were worried and nervous and where they thought that they needed to go and talk with an agent. So take those things that are much easier for them to do on their own, cross-reference that in your matrix with those items from the agent. And then the third step is to actually run a tech feasibility understanding of those areas. So when you understand when something's easy to build and it's also low value to an agent, high time for an agent, and an area that a customer wants to be able to do quickly, that is actually your gold standard of the first item that you should build. And from there, you can prioritize the matrix into setting up a roadmap in order to really deliver on that experience.
So the fourth section is focus on what you do best. And this is really back to the goal of the brand customer relationship and making sure we have our priorities right. But this story is really about technology decisions. It's about investing in your differentiators and leveraging existing tech, because you really don't need to reinvent the wheel always. So some IT teams have legacy systems, old software. Sometimes in order to advance the process, they decide to purchase, say, some type of large piece of software that does like soup to nuts, but it's very cookie cutter. It doesn't allow you to create the unique experiences that your customers need. So really, this is about investing resources into the areas that are going to give you true competitive advantage, and not just what everybody else has. So there are a lot of studies on how IT has become less effective at enabling business goals, and most of these really have to do with the time it takes to develop certain products, the competition for talent, and really there are some platforms that IT departments can use that will allow them to focus on other areas and develop talent who are interested in focusing on certain areas for really smart new products that really support the user experience. And so we're seeing basically a migration of a lot of IT capabilities outside of the enterprise. So right now, external IT solutions are about 33%, and they're expected, McKinsey expects them to get up to about 50% just in the next few years. So that's really around making sure that that the customer experience goals can be met, and that there's a lot, like Christina was talking about, there's a lot of flexibility in the technologies. So investing in your true competitive advantage, that's really the subtext here. So first of all, we really have seen a greater responsiveness and speed to market in SaaS and PaaS technologies. And that's really making sure that we can get environments up quickly, we can test quickly, we can build and across the world even. So a lot of companies deal with technology teams all around the world, so it really speeds up the whole entire process. But a lot of these platforms also allow you to have dashboards and tools that you need for monitoring or for data analysis, and there's no reason for you to reinvent that wheel internally. And number two is you really can maintain your own intellectual property while using some of these platforms. So the idea is never to buy some really big platform, but to buy exactly what you need. And that will allow you to create a distinct front end, to have a user experience that can be optimized and changed over time, as well as being able to get data out of that system and use it in other systems or for analysis. But basically, you can use a third-party tool and still maintain your own intellectual property. But you don't want to buy some monolithic sales servicing and policy administration type of platform necessarily. If you sort of think of it as like the Legos, and you're adding pieces of technology as you need them, so only the features that really support and focus on what your distinct differentiators are. It will, in the end, you won't have to make like huge upgrades for one massive system. You'll basically be able to upgrade and change in sort of more of a plug-and-play mode. And we had an experience with PROSITE, which is a specialty services company. They gave us the assignment to help them really increase their speed to market to get their dynamic and evolving products into market. And those are things like, you know, the Rolling Stones are on tour. They need insurance for like everything on the tour. That's what they do. They do movies. So there's really like bundling a lot of different insurance products, and in a very dynamic way that's sort of changing with those industries as they change. So they needed to have and optimize this great front end, and at the same time, they needed to work for across a few different industries, especially claim services. So the first thing that was necessary was, of course, research and prototyping, as we've already discussed. But in this context, for focusing on what you do best, is really around product management, product development. Some insurance companies have product groups, but they're really about the insurance product. It's also important to consider your digital assets to be products as well, and to create a feature analysis in order to prioritize those. And that could be based on business value, user value, and above all, technical feasibility and dependencies. And then from there, you could identify a vendor. So what happens a lot often with some insurance companies that we work with is there are a few vendors that they want to talk to before the project even starts in order to understand if they have all the bells and whistles. But it's more important to know what you really want. And we were able to work with PROSITE and to put in place a technology that has strong APIs and allows us to have an abstract front end. So once we had all those features that we needed, we sort of identified what is the architecture that is important in order to make those features come alive, or to make that customer experience come alive. So we wanted a front end that would allow us a lot of flexibility, that was extensible, and basically driven by APIs, and not sort of an old application where everything was set and you really couldn't change it very much. And then what we did was, once we had the tools in place, we developed an atomic design system and a component library in order to create personalized experiences, in order to make changes easily, in order to get new experiences up quicker. So it was just a win-win coming up with this system. Oftentimes you, let's say, redesign apps or a website or different assets, and then you create some system down the road. But we made creating the system part of the development, and that was all about having the right technology and the right platform that enabled us to do that. So in the end, we were able to develop an experience that allowed for a lot of flexibility. We were able to develop really a dynamic set of tools and we used Angular. We had a front end that was very flexible, and we were able to deliver to different industries. Now, one of the things that we discovered along the way was that, let's say you have fleet, like this example here. You have like certain components that you need for fleet that you don't need for other industries. But in testing, we found that some other industries, by exposing them to some of the tools that we had for fleet, said, "Oh, we have trucks," and we discovered by exposing them to some of these tools across industry that they were really valuable. So it's really through testing we decided, which components are right for which users, and really testing and optimizing in order to come up with a solution that has been very successful. So we couldn't have done it, though, if we had a cookie-cutter technology platform, or if we had to basically deal with old legacy. So it's really all about having the right web services and a flexible abstract front end.
So I'm going to go through our last section. I know we're getting short on time. So this one's about letting trust trickle down. We started this out saying that trust was at the center of the issue. And really, trust needs to start by building that at the carrier, between the carrier and the agent. And that's actually going to come down through the entire relationship and improve the amount of trust that you have ultimately with the end customer. So agents themselves really have an understanding and a feel for when things like your quotes aren't accurate, or they get frustrated by a lot of manual processes. And that's actually what's going to cause the trust to erode. And if you can rectify all those things, it's actually going to convert that agent to considering your business to be the carrier of choice. So from a deep customer solutions survey of 5,000 agents, they actually heard that 99.5% of agents agreed with the following statement: that ease of doing business is critical in choosing the carrier that gets the business of their end customer. So that's pretty powerful. So really resolving the ability for the agent to work better with you is ultimately going to lead to your sale, because they are a gatekeeper for that end customer. So there are actually several areas that you can focus on in order to improve trust. The first is actually making sure that your quote is accurate and that they don't have to do a lot of rework, that they want that to be accurate between your comp raters to your, to going into your proprietary tools. They want underwriting to be responsive and flexible. They want to make sure that policy servicing goes well. And this harkens back to what we were talking about with what to choose to self-service versus not. They like to have effective technology, so the systems that you make for them are important. They want to make sure that you're handling your claims properly and fairly for their customers, and also some would like some marketing support as well. So the best thing that I can show you is actually a continuation of the property and casualty work that I've been doing with MetLife. And we actually designed an agent portal for them back at the Q4 of 2016. They came to us and asked to really help them reimagine how their platform would work for all of their agent groups. So that's from their independent agents to their captive agents to all the agents in servicing and sales on their phone channel. So we again followed our similar process of starting with contextual inquiry and interviews, really working with agents in all those areas, and understanding what was critical on the employee side at MetLife, and conducting a competitive audit of a variety of different systems to really try and pull that all together to make a great experience strategy for how we could make the best possible system for MetLife in order to give great technology and really improve their perception of being easy to do business with. From there, we created a rapid prototype. We tested across 4 usability tests, and that prototype actually consists of a ton of reusable components, so that we're actually working with their technology platform, which is Guidewire, to make sure that everything in the system can be easily modular and used across. And also, it really, that approach cuts down on the amount of training that you need to do for agents, because once they understand how to use one module, if that gets repeated in different areas of the site and experience, they really know how to use that part of the experience intuitively. And this will actually be launching in June of 2018. So here's a quick look at some of the foundational templates that we created. And for us, it was really important for them to be both intuitive and extendable, as I was talking about from a development standpoint. And our goals were to make sure that agents could really quickly produce their quotes and complete any servicing tasks that they needed to. So we're working with the development team now, and we're leveraging all these components, and I'm looking forward to launching in 2018. So in one of our user testing sessions, we actually got great feedback. And though we had lots of feedback that was similar to this, this is probably the quote that sums it up the best. Where this agent is really telling me how everything really is where she needs it to be. She can see everything all at once, and if she needs to, she can dig deeper, and she knows it's all really going to be in there, and it just makes her job easier. And when you have a system that creates that type of experience for your agents, that really reflects on your brand, and that actually helps build that trust. When you've taken the time to design something to meet their needs, or to actually work with them to make a system that works great for them, that's really where that trust exists. And that's how they know that you're a carrier that they want to continue to work with for the long haul. So here are the ways that you can do this yourself. Making sure that those quotes are accurate. Expose those risk ratings if you need to the agent. Order reports as soon as you can. Make sure that you're transparent as to what those reports are saying and how they affect the rate. And make sure that when you're bridging from a comp rater to your proprietary system, that the quote that they're going to get in one versus the other is as similar as possible. So align your technology with those agents' needs and your rules. It's really important to make sure that you that technology accurately represents what your actual rules are, because the agent actually quickly will learn those over time. And if your technology isn't helping and assisting them with how they can do their jobs better, that becomes really frustrating. So servicing is really critical. So servicing the customer efficiently is going to make the agent really, really happy. And this actually harkens back to a lot of what we were talking about in the self-servicing module. So just making sure that that servicing approach goes well is going to really cement that you are thinking about them, their business, and their customer. And ultimately, involving agents can make not only get their critical feedback and get lots of great information on how to make the optimum system, it actually can convert those agents into marketing messages for your system and your process. They go back and talk with their other coworkers and at other sessions and talk about what they've seen, and that helps to create that buzz and excitement for what tool is to come. So those are our tips from today. So I'm actually going to turn it back over to Emily.
Thank you, Christina and Jane. That was great. I did just want to say that we will be following up within the next couple of days with the slides and recording of the webinar, so you can share it, look back on it, etc. And we are right at the hour, so unfortunately we don't have time for questions. But you can definitely get in touch with us via following up with me when I send the email with the slides and the recording. So thank you everyone for attending today. Thank you, Jane and Christina, and have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.